Hey guys, welcome back to the video. I hope you all are doing great. And today's video is the part 2 of the second part of the deep learning video of the series. So today's part we're going to learn more. The first video was just about a little bit about introduction here and there, a little bit of information, the beginning of how this deep learning, all those things. But today's part will go even more deep. We'll be learning a little more new things about this whole concept of deep learning and all this stuff. So today's video we'll be learning few things about deep learning, how the concept of deep learning is similar to the concept of human brain, the human neuron, all those things we're going to learn a little bit new today. All those things we're going to see. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. So guys, now we'll be seeing today's agenda. The first video we had 3 topics. So today also we are going to have 3 topics which we are going to focus. So first topic we are going to focus is obviously going to be how deep learning rescued. Now if you remember the first part, we spoke about the whole limitations of machine learning, where I mentioned the next video we'll be talking about how this deep learning is going to rescue. So that topic we are going to be talking in this video, and don't worry about that, how deep learning rescued, where we had 2 P's, that is actually to keep it more attractive so that people see what that whole thing is. So that's not a spelling mistake, which I actually wantedly did. So let us see. So if you noticed that before, make sure you comment down comment section and let me know. Let me see how many people noticed it. So obviously we're going to talk about how deep learning rescued. Apart from that, we're going to learn what deep learning is. In the previous video we learned about what is artificial intelligence is. We spoke about what is machine learning. But today's video we'll be learning what is deep learning, right? The topic of what is deep learning, right? Apart from that, we'll be seeing deep learning's applications. Where are they applied? Where they are frequently used, who uses the most. All these things we'll be seeing in this video. So let's get straight into the main topics of this whole concept, right? Now first let's see what this deep learning, this part we are going to have. So deep learning has, before we go into has the ability to recognize all these things. Let's now know how deep learning rescued, right? That's the main thing. So let's see how it did. So deep learning has the ability to recognize handwriting and object detection, and focuses on the right feature by themselves without requiring more guidance. Now if you see right here, deep learning has more ability to recognize handwriting. Now if you see, that was a limitation of machine learning, right? That was a limitation of machine learning, where it was not able to recognize handwriting. But the handwritten things can be recognized by our deep learning. That's the major thing which rescued. And apart from that, the object detection, which we mentioned, the limitation, where it was difficult for the machine learning to recognize, that has been recognized by our deep learning. That's how it helped. The deep learning helped our this whole problem which we were facing. And if you see, focuses on the right feature by themselves. So it has the ability to focus on the specific features which are required, the right features. Which are not required, it won't focus on those. So that is the main thing what you can see right here. Without requiring guidance or for more programming or all those things, or more programming guidance. It does not require those things. It does by itself. So that is the major thing which deep learning helped. Now you will be wondering, what is this deep learning, right? That is the main thing. So what exactly is this? What is basically this deep learning is the whole question. So let's see right here. Now we have deep learning is implemented through neural network also, what we people say it as. So if you see, we have a neuron structure right here. So from the same structure like this, we have bought it, the deep learning. So let's understand this whole structure of this neuron. From that we will be able to understand our artificial neuron which we created, right? So if you see, this is a neuron where you can see there's the dendrites. If I spelled it right, do let me know. If I spelled it wrong, I apologize. We have the cell body and the axon terminal and the nucleus, right? Now what happens in a neuron is the dendrites, or this whole thing, I'll do one thing, I'll bring my mouse right here, it will be much more easier. So if you see, these are all our dendrites. They have multiple dendrites that are kind of connected, which you can say not kind of connected, but which has a gap in between, which is almost close to each other. As we can see, we have multiple dendrites here, so multiple inputs, we can say there are multiple inputs basically. Where's my mouse? Yeah. So if you see, there are multiple inputs. So what happens is dendrites receive basically the inputs to the neuron gets. The input is received in these dendrites. What happens is it goes to the cell body. So we have a nucleus right here in the cell body which performs the function. This is the main thing which performs. So the nucleus is the major part where it performs all the tasks, the function. After that, if you see, again my mouse, yeah. So after from the function is from the nucleus, the information, the output is traveled through this axon terminal. So basically, if I have to tell you this whole procedure how it works, is the input is received. Now I'll tell you how this input is received also, don't worry. So we have the input that is received. That input goes to the cell body where there is the nucleus. Nucleus basically performs all the tasks, whatever task is there, the major task, all the information, all those things, and it passes through this axon terminal. Now after it goes through this axon terminal, and then these neurals, or the way that comes out, the output is going to be coming out. What happens is, from the neural terminal, the information is passed out, or triggered or shoot from this main part. Now these again have kind of a gap, and after that gap, exactly after this gap, if you're seeing the mouse, exactly after this gap, we have another neuron that was having a dendrites right here. So what happens is, if this shoots a message that goes to another dendrites right here, it goes to this part again to another neuron. So like this the information passes. So if you see, this is the neuron starting point. Now there could be a possibility that there's another neuron at top of this, or somewhere right here, or could be somewhere right here. Who knows? We don't know. So it could be somewhere right there, and there's a gap in between. And that gap, after the gap, there's another neuron where it has a body like this. There's a bottom structure like this. So this is the main thing of how this the neuron thing, the thing works basically. So the gap which I was talking about, what I was always I'm telling from that time. So you'll be thinking, what is this gap? What is this gap he's talking about? So study says there is a gap between two neurons, right? There are two neuron gaps, which is called as synapse. So that gap is known as synapse. So from that gap, after that gap is basically another neuron that is connected. So that neuron provides the information. So this whole thing is how a neuron works. Now let's see how we created an artificial neuron. Similarly, how it worked in our neuron which we had. So in artificial neural network, let's understand how this whole thing works. Now again, I'll bring my mouse right here, and we have let's say these are the inputs. Okay, we have x1, x2, and there are multiple x3, x4, x5 till n number of inputs. So what happens is, you're providing this x1 and all these things into the processing element. Okay, these are the processing element. Now between this processing element, I'll just find out my mouse. Yeah, after this processing element, there will be something called as the weights. Now currently we'll not be talking about this. We'll be talking about this weights and all in the future, the next part of the videos. But currently you understand that this is a processing element. Okay, there is a formula, or you can call it as S is equal to sigma xi and wi. So w means weight. So weight I. So basically this is the kind of like a formula which you can say. So input is passed to the processing elements, and it is gone through a transfer function. It's gone through a transfer function between, and then the output is given. Now I'll tell you how this is similar to a neuron. Okay, now we have the dendrites which were receiving the inputs. So similarly we have these are all the inputs that are being received, right? Then we have a nucleus or the cell body which has a nucleus which basically does the process, right? The whole procedure which collects this one and does the task, function, all those things. Similarly in this we have a processing element. Now after that there is basically a transfer function which we call it as the axon terminal in the neuron, but in this we have the transfer function. So this is basically like an axon terminal, what you can call it as. And then we have the part where the information was being given out. Similarly we have the output, which is basically you can see y1, y2, and there's like multiple like y3, y4 now till yn, multiple till nth number. So it's you can't define it. Now what is this processing, this whole thing, or if you want to go in deep, it's basically, if I have to say, we spoke in the first part, we spoke about the training data, right? The information we train the AI or the machine or the model. Now let's take an example of the first video. If you've seen the first video, in that video we took an example of automobiles. Now we have our machine which is recognizing automobiles. We have our AI. Let's assume this is our AI. This whole procedure is our AI. So this is the user which is going to input all the automobiles. For example, Tesla, Tata Motors, then maybe Ford, Kia, and Mahindra. All these are the automobile companies, right? So the user is going to input. Now from the data which you have given, what it's going to do is it's going to process the elements. It's going to process it properly. Once the element is processed, once it recognizes whatever training you're given, after the training is given, suppose you are telling the AI that is basically it has to recognize only Tesla. So it's going to check what are the information that has been collected. For example, in Tesla, the logo. Then maybe if you have provided the name of the input in the name, if there's Tesla, it's going to recognize that. Maybe you have provided a car. The car image you've given in the processing element is going to recognize the car. Maybe the tires, maybe the size or the length. All these things it's going to recognize. All these things is going to process. Once the process is done, it goes to the transfer function, where is the axon terminal, basically like that. Once that process is done, it's going to give you the output. Basically, this is Tesla, and these are all the other companies. These does not fall under the criteria of Tesla. These are not Tesla cars. These are some other company cars, or these are other company cars such as Tata Motors, Mahindra, Ford, all these things. So these are the other cars. These are the example what we can provide. Now this is the basic thing of how artificial neural network works. Now I hope you understood this whole concept of how this neural works, the whole how this neuron works, and this is the artificial neuron what I was talking about, artificial neural network which we have created, and this is the neuron which it's already there from before. So this is the neuron. So this is how we try to implement, or we try to imitate, or try to copy it, some similarly like that, what you can tell. So I hope you understood this whole concept of how this whole thing works. So now let's move ahead and see what this deep learning network, or what they're called as. So there are deep networks, or are nothing but neural networks with hidden layers. Now if you see, there are multiple layers right here. If you see, there is 1 2 3 4 5 6, and I'll tell you what happens. So basically the input is given right here, and each input goes to certain area. So if you're given suppose a criteria or some platform or something like the tires or something, or the lights, or some of the size. These are the main part or the main element. So we will again check if the desired output is the right, or if not, it repeats. So basically I'll tell you what happens. So this is the inputs, and then it goes through the processing element. If it does not, it again goes back and goes to another. So again it's basically like if it does not give the desired output, again it's going to go to the same. Again, when it has to go through all of these, again it's going to check if it's correct or not, again come back, again goes back. If the output is not correct, again goes back, comes. So this processing element is like basically like this, multiple times going back in, coming in. Basically a lot of checking is happening, where you can call it as maybe the first round the tires were the same, but it can't be the same for the next, right? Maybe the lights were not the same for the same. So that is the reason what you call like it goes back, it comes again, it goes, comes back again. So finally till the end, there's many hidden layers what I'm talking about. There are many hidden layers that are there here, and from that layers, finally when we have the desired output, the output is given out. So this red color what you can see right here, which I'm moving my mouse right here, this whole thing, this is the desired output. Now until unless we don't get this desired output, this whole process is going to repeat again and again and again. So that's how deep learning works, and that's how deep learning is so effective. Now if you see, the best example I can give you is where we are going to create our advanced virtual assistant. If maybe the whole process of opening YouTube does not work in the specific way which we mentioned, it has to again check if the command was correct, and then it's going to open YouTube. So let's assume this is the final YouTube. This is going to open the YouTube. This is the final procedure. So our advanced virtual assistant will going to check all these criteria. If it's telling, is the user telling opening Google, it will check, no, it's not Google. Is it telling Instagram? No, not Instagram. Is it Facebook? No, not Instagram. So it's going to go back, again come in, like the whole process is going to be repeated again and again. Finally, there's a point where we'll get the output where it's going to be YouTube, opening YouTube, and finally the artificial intelligence or the whole model is going to open YouTube. So I hope you understood this whole thing of neuron, then our artificial neuron, and then the whole processing element, the whole process, the hidden layers, what we spoke about, all these things, how these things work. I gave it in the most best example, in the simplest way as possible. I hope you understood it. So now let's move ahead and see what else is there, what else is the major thing what we're going to see now next. So now we are going to see the deep learning application. Now we spoke about how deep learning saved, what is basically deep learning, what are the main things in deep learning, how basically this deep learning works, all these things we saw. Now what are the applications of deep learning, right? That's the major thing. Now the first example is going to be obviously self-driving cars. Yeah, that's going to be Elon Musk's Tesla self-driving cars. That is one of the major examples of self-driving cars. Other than that, we are having our own voice assistant, the virtual assistant we are having. So that is itself is basically an example of deep learning, which I explained about YouTube. Now that itself is an example of deep learning, right? That itself is a huge example for deep learning. So voice assistant or virtual assistant, what you can call it as. Apart from that, we have the image recognition. Image recognition could be AR, augmented reality, or it could be the AI virtual assistant we created, AI virtual mouse which we created. Maybe an assistant which is recognizing certain objects, or like table, image, or video, or voice, or some image that is getting recognized, or object that is getting recognized. That is basically where deep learning is going to be applied. So these are the application of deep learning. There are much more applications in deep learning. There are many things that the deep learning is used. Google is another example of deep learning. Best example is Google Lens. That itself uses deep learning technology. So that's the major thing. Now, if I'm not sure if you have noticed again, I made a wantedly mistake If you have noticed, make sure to comment. So if you see right here, we are having deep learning, the spelling mistake. So if you have noticed that, I wantedly did that. So let us see how many people recognize this. Make sure you comment it down. So this is an activity which you are going to do to the whole series, maybe in deep learning and maybe in neural network series also, and even in the machine learning, maybe not, advanced social series also. We're going to have little bit activities which we're going to make it interactive. So do let me know in the comment section how many people saw this thing, recognized it. So let's see how many people did. So that was for today's part, which we come to the end of this video. This second part of our deep learning was basically we understood how deep learning saved or rescued. Apart from that, we saw how this deep learning works, what is the meaning of deep learning, what deep learning, basically how it came into play, how deep learning basically the design is, or how the structure works, the hidden layers. So we went much more deeper this time, but again part 3 is going to be even more deeper. We are going to learn more and more. So this was the part 2. I hope you liked it. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and if you have friends who are interested in deep learning, make sure you share it to them and make sure they also check out these videos. So till then guys, happy coding, take care, and till then, peace out, goodbye, bye.